Hi, folks. Welcome back. Figured I'd make one more video quick before I'm about to do a software update on my computer here. So if it doesn't go well, I may be down a computer for a while. So figured one more video before I dive into the deep end. I was looking back at some old clips on the channel recently, particularly the Find Your Groove and Managing Your Class. Both of those are over a year old now. And in the past year or two, uh, there was a great influence on my classroom management style uh, through some videos and some books that I have read. So that influence kind of re entered my memory recently. Last week, I just had a post observation conference with one of the uh, assistant superintendents in my school district. Part of my tenure process that everyone in New York State goes through. Um, and it was a very refreshing experience. Um, some of my past videos I've talked about, how much better it is in my district since I moved from my first one to my second one. Not gonna lie, the past 10 months or so, I've not been as happy with my school district. Um, Not for any one particular reason, but just like a compilation of many little things that are just slowly wearing away at me. Um, so I've been having a rough go of it. I won't lie. Um, so it was good to finally interact with an administrator at the highest tier of my school district and have it be a refreshing experience, one that gave me some hope. Um, and one of the things that really hit home with me was her comment that she could see it was plain as day that I had a very strong relationship with my students. I don't know if I've mentioned this in any of my more recent education videos, but at the beginning of this school year, I had taken over a CTE class. It was eighth grade. I mentioned it in one of my earlier videos this year. Well, I guess it's last year now since we're in January 2022. Um, and since then, I have moved again. We had a teacher who basically decided that they weren't going to teach this year after the year already started. So that person disappeared on us, and we had to go through some growing pains. I ended up taking over that teacher's classes because I have the certification and know how. Whereas the CTE class, you don't really need anything special because there's no machines involved. So it made more sense to have me move to the seventh and eighth grade traditional intro to tech classes for seventh and eighth grade. And then we got a long term sub uh, in my old classroom. So, that being said, it's been a hectic year. This is now my third classroom that I've had since August. Um, Technically, I've really only been in two classrooms this year, but because of how late I found everything out at the beginning of the year, um, I'm looking at it more as three because I was in one classroom up until August when I found out I was where I was going to. Then I went to the second one, and now I'm in the third one. And from what I'm told, this is where I'll stay for the rest of the year, so I can settle in a little bit more. Um, anyway, to get back on track, uh, it was refreshing interacting with this administrator because seemed very straightforward, which is something I find to be a rarity amongst people in school administrations. Um, and I really, I hadn't interacted with this person at all prior to this observation, and I have to say I was very impressed. Um, Definitely understood what I was doing and was just sharp as a tack, saw everything that was going on, what I had done, and especially recognized the fact that I had managed to do it in the amount of time I had, considering I've only had these kids for about 3 months. So, um, one of the topics that came up was my classroom management. Um, and I basically got a huge pat on the back. I was, quote, told I should be proud of it. Um, And to be quite honest, that gave me the warm fuzzies because I don't feel like my classroom management has been up to par from what it normally is this year. Um, Junior high has been kicking my butt. I'm not having a fun time, and I desperately want to be back at the high school. But luckily, the move down to the regular intro to tech classes has made it more bearable because I can actually do the stuff that I meant to do with my students with as far as hands-on is concerned. I'm not restricted to a traditional paper based classroom where students are sitting in desks and learning about a topic and doing assignments. I can actually do hands-on stuff now because I have some semblance of workshop. So one of the things I mentioned to this administrator was, first of all, I thanked her for the compliment because that means a lot to me. She's not the first person to comment on my classroom management abilities, and I wish I could articulate them more to colleagues and other teachers the way I do things because I don't see it happening the same way for others. But one of the things that has stood out to me is the difference between, everyone calls it classroom management. And in my mind, management is not the same thing as what I do. There is a distinct difference between classroom management and what I look at as classroom leadership. I am not a manager, I am a leader. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it with my students. And the job of a leader is to take care of the people who are in their charge. So in my case, in my position, my focus should not be on the results. My focus should be on taking care of the people who take care of the results. That may sound a little confusing, but after some of the things I'm going to talk about, it should hopefully make more sense to you. Basically, I look at it as a leader takes care of the people beneath them, and by taking care of those people focus less on covering their own butts and more on getting the results that the leader desires. So it's kind of a roundabout way of getting results. Okay. It's something that is starting to crop up. I know there's a little bit of a following coming along with it, especially in the business world. But I've been able to link a particular person's philosophy with it. It applies to the education world as well. So the name of the guy that I'm talking about is Simon Sinek. Okay, or I've also heard it pronounced Sinek, but I believe it's pronounced Sinek. And I gotta say, this guy is freaking awesome. I've never seen someone who has spent so much time studying the human condition and understanding the human condition, and who is able to talk about the human condition so eloquently, yet so simply. He can put all of it in storytelling and into basically layman's terms in a way that make it both entertaining to listen to and easily understood by anyone. So I first found out about him from a viral clip probably 5 years ago or so, and then I started looking into him a bit, and he's released a few books. He also released an awesome interview through Inside Quest with Tom Bilyeu, which is, I think, a pretty good program. I'll put a link to that in the description so that you guys can find it. It's definitely worth a watch if you have an hour of time to watch it. And it'll sum up everything I'm talking about in an hour. And give you enough detail that you can really get a good feel for it. However, if you want to dive more into it, I have some book recommendations for you. Okay. The first one, okay, by Sinek, okay, it's called Start With Why. It's a really just it's a good introduction to what we're going to be talking about here in leadership versus management. Okay. Sinek tells a story about a barista that he met at a casino in Las Vegas who worked in two different places. And he said he loved working in one place, and the other place he felt like most of the time he was just watching his own butt so that he wouldn't get in trouble. And that's the difference between leadership and management. If you are a leader, you don't necessarily have power. A leader is someone that others look up to and want to be around in order, and that's how you get results. Versus a manager is someone who uses their authority to press others into action. You don't necessarily need to be a powerful person to be a leader. So that's the first book. Start with why, right? How great leaders inspire everyone to take action. Okay, very applicable to the classroom. Okay, the second one I'm going to recommend, also by Sinek, The Infinite Game. Okay, this is really about looking at the big picture. Okay, one of the issues that is completely endemic to the U.S. school system is the fact that we are so focused on what other countries are doing and how we're performing versus them that we spend more time focused on that versus actually fixing it and getting results. That's the entire United States. It's more visible in some places than others, but if we were to focus more on the long-term big picture, basically the infinite game versus the finite game of we need results now and they need to be measurable and I need to have them on a piece of paper so I can show the school board. If we were using the infinite game in the school system, we would be doing much better than we currently are, and everyone would be a lot happier. Cannot recommend this book enough. Okay. The next one I'm going to recommend is this little one right here, also by Sinek. Okay, little book of inspiration. This one is good just for some light reading. Okay, it's almost arranged like a children's book. Okay, and it's just a bunch of little inspirational quotes. It's just a good way to basically focus on social and emotional learning. I've mentioned this one to one of my school district administrators as something that would be great for doing SEL, right? Social emotional learning, which is now a specific requirement that the teachers have to, well, basically the buildings all have to do. This is a great little book. So that's one of them. And the other one, I don't have my copy here because I lent it out. The other one that I wanted to mention is called Why Leaders Eat Last. And that one is really the most important one of the bunch. That outlines most of where it comes into classroom management. So that being said, I've applied a lot of that to my classroom. And it really, once you read into it and you learn about it, it really makes it show. And I mentioned that to this administrator, and she asked me to send her the link to the interview that I'm going to share with you guys. So I hope you'll watch that and you'll take a look into it. I don't do the greatest job of articulating it because it's just such an incredible concept. I could not possibly fit it into one video. But since I started going that route, I've mentioned classroom management many times before in this, and it's really more should be referred to as classroom leadership. So I'll say this. Be a leader. Even if you don't have power, be a leader. Form relationships. Make your students feel valued as a good leader would make their employees feel valued. And just do what you got to do, and the results will follow. Okay? Don't focus so much on having results on paper. Focus on the kids. Focus on giving them what they need. Keeping them healthy. Okay? Just do what is right versus what makes you look good on paper. Okay? When all you focus on is ticking off the boxes and having some hard data to present and all those sorts of things, and you're playing that finite game of short-term thinking, you'll lose every time. That's why we're seeing such a huge number of teachers either leaving their districts or leaving the profession. I know in my district in particular, we are dropping like flies. I know of at least 4 teachers who have just left entirely. A couple of them have left the profession. A couple of them have gone to other districts. and I know one who has basically decided to go on unpaid leave for reasons that I will not discuss because they anger me so much. Um, so, that being said, play the infinite game, be a leader. Take a look at those books. Take a look at the link, which I think is a great way to kind of paraphrase what's in the books. It gives you an idea of what I'm calling the Sinek approach to leadership. Um, hopefully someday, if this YouTube channel becomes even somewhat successful, maybe Simon Sinek will, end up catching this, and hopefully gives him a little happiness to know that he's affected more than just the business world, but also a small corner of the education world. So cannot recommend it enough. Have a good one. See you next time.